Alright everybody, we are back this week for UFC Vegas 102 Cannonier versus Rodrigues preview, predictions, and breakdown. I am your host, Double M. I'm not going to do my original or usual intro this week. I just kind of want to get into these fights, break them down, and not make the podcast as long as it usually is. Not that I'm going to, skip anything in terms of the breakdowns, but I kind of want to get this out quick because it's already late in the week. So we're going to skip the intro, but I'm Double M. Today we're going to be breaking down UFC Vegas 102, Cannonier versus Rodrigues. Let's get it started and step into the ring. Alright, so up first, we've got a battle between Julia Avila, who comes in as a big underdog, plus 440, taking on Jacqueline Cavalcante, minus 600. Listen, I don't think any woman, unless you're at the top of the heap, should be a minus 600. I've said this before on my podcast in multiple fights, but I do think that Cavalcante should be a big favorite. She's a long, rangy striker who's going to be able to pick apart Avila on the feet. Really what it comes down to is how good is her takedown defense, and if she gets taken down, can she avoid getting submitted or stuck in a position where heavy ground and pound could come and work her way back up to the feet. I believe she can, and I think Cavalcante has looked pretty good in her UFC career. She's able to manage distance, she's able to throw her long, rangy combinations, punctuate her combinations with kicks, and use the long strikes to keep her opponent at the range that she wants to be at. You can close the distance, you can crash the pocket, but you will run into shots, and I honestly see a finish in this fight from Cavalcante. I'm not going to sit here and go super in-depth on it. I think if Avila can get the takedowns early, get on the top, and land a bunch of ground and pound and look for a sub, then that's fine. But I don't think she's going to finish Cavalcante on the ground, and I don't see her getting a takedown where she's going to control her for, 2 to 3 minutes on the ground. And I think that most of this fight probably takes place on the feet, and I think Cavalcante will find a finish in the second or third round. I think she's too long, too crisp, and she does have some good pop on her shots, and she doesn't just throw one shot, she'll throw combinations as well. And I think this is a tee-up spot for Cavalcante, or Cavalcante, however you want to say it. I think she's going to look good, and I think she will get a late finish. I'm going to go with Jacqueline Cavalcante to get a late second round TKO. If I was going to play this fight in terms of a betting perspective, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit under the weather today. I would play Cavalcante KO round 2 and Cavalcante KO round 3. You're probably going to get plus 2,000 or higher on both of those, maybe plus 1,500. I would honestly just take a stab, throw like half a unit on each of those, or a quarter of a unit, and you'll probably come out on top, because I do think Cavalcante is going to be able to piece up Julia Avila on the feet. So the official pick is going to be Jacqueline Cavalcante, second round TKO, and we'll move on to the next one. Alright, up next we've got a battle between a Contender Series alum making their UFC debut in Elijah Smith taking on a UFC veteran who fought in the UFC, didn't have too much success, left the promotion, and now he's back. Suffered his first loss to Taylor Lapilus, but that's a tough fight to come back to, and that is Vince Vendetta Morales. So Morales versus Smith. I'm going to be honest, I didn't spend a whole lot of time on this fight, but I know when it comes to Morales, he can wrestle, he will go for takedowns, but he is primarily a boxer. He's very heavy on his legs, very heavy on that lead leg, and that lead leg is good. It's going to be there for a guy like Elijah Smith. Smith is a very athletic fighter. He uses his athleticism, doesn't have the best technique, isn't super crisp with everything that he throws, and he can be hit. If we learned anything, it's that you can never really trust a Contender Series guy if you're looking to bet on them. Look at Cody Steele against Rong Zhu. We knew Rong Zhu was the better counter fighter. We knew he was better technically, but my pick was Cody Steele because I thought he was going to dog him out, and I thought he was going to be able to get on the inside and land some big combinations. He didn't even try to fight technically, and he just threw big looping hooks and wide punches and got caught. Now, I see a little bit of a difference from Elijah Smith. I think that the Contender Series performance was better from Cody Steele, but I think Elijah Smith is pretty clean with his punches. He'll throw good 1-2s. Sometimes he'll come in with some good hooks, and, he has decent boxing, but he can get drawn into a brawl, and I feel like, having his ego be tested in this fight by Morales could be a problem for him. He could be winning the fight clearly and then want to make a statement, kind of like Cody Steele, and I could see Morales clipping him with a shot and dropping him and putting him out. Morales has power. Like I said, he puts his combinations together, primarily a boxer. I could see these two slugging it out in the pocket, and Morales just clips him, drops him, and puts him down. We've seen Elijah Smith get knocked out before prior to coming onto the Contender Series, and I do think that he should win this fight, but this is a fight that I wouldn't play in terms of a betting perspective from either side. I think Morales has the weapons to win. I think that if he can drag this fight out late, I think in the midpoint of the second round and into the third round, the mixed martial arts veteranship and the UFC veteranship is going to show through for Morales. Even though he might not have had the most success in terms of his career, I feel like he'll have the better cardio if the fight pushes late. And if the fight does push late, I think he could probably back up Elijah Smith and start to land some combinations on him, start to put some shots together, rip to the body, and I think he could break a guy like Smith. You know, Smith did win the fight against Aaron Tao on the Contender Series. That was a fight where I believe I backed Aaron Tao. I could be wrong, but you know, that was a fight where Aaron Tao could have won that. You know, it was close. He got dominated early, got taken down, almost got submitted, got controlled. But you saw that Elijah Smith's explosiveness, that fast twitch muscle, it started to slow him down. And he is training under a UFC veteran in his father, in Gilbert Smith, a former Ultimate Fighter alumni. If you ever watched the Tough series, you know who Gilbert Smith is. And I think that having him as his dad and his coach, I think he's going to be ready for this spot more than other fighters, you know, have been in the past. But I still see holes, especially in his defense. Whenever this guy throws shots and throws combinations, he leaves his chin on the center line. He doesn't move his head very well. He doesn't slip. He doesn't roll. And he's always going to be there for counter shots. So if this fight is a pocket boxing fight, I think Morales probably clips him and puts him down. If he can control the distance and control the range, use his wrestling, use some cage pushing, break off the clinch with some strikes, and throw some kicks on the outside, you know, deaden that lead leg a little bit, beat him up with some long rangy combinations and control the pace, I think he can win. I think Smith might even get a KO. I'm going to pick Elijah Smith to win. I'm going to go with Elijah Smith via a 29-28 unanimous decision, but I would not be surprised if Morales clipped him because Elijah Smith wanted to test his ego a little bit and got caught. But I think he's going to play it smart. I think he could even get a finish as well. I think he could get a finish on the ground or on the feet. But I wouldn't exchange in the pocket with Morales is all I'm going to say. But the pick is going to be Elijah Smith, 29-28 unanimous decision. All right, up next we've got a battle between Gabriel Bonfim, one half of the Bonfim brothers competing on this card, taking on the underdog at plus 180 in Chaos Williams. Bonfim comes in minus 218. It's probably a little bit higher now. You know, on paper, Bonfim should win this fight. He's got the better wrestling. He's going to want to use his takedowns and his control on the ground to beat a guy like Chaos Williams. You don't want to stand and strike with Williams. I know he's been outstruck before. I know that if you can stay on the outside, if you can pump your jab, if you can keep your range and distance and land your good shots, then you can win. But for as long as Bonfim plays on the feet with a guy like Chaos Williams, he's leaving himself open to be knocked out. And you don't want to play that game. I don't think a lot of people want to play that game. I also don't think Bonfim wants to play the game either, because I feel like he probably has some chin issues, and if Williams clips him, he will knock him out. I have 100%, well, I won't say 100%, but I'm pretty certain that if Chaos clips him with a big shot, he's going down. I think he would knock Bonfim out. Now, like I said, Bonfim is a good technical striker. He uses his jab very well, good 1-2s, a very solid left hook. His best punch probably is his left hook. He throws some good kicks to the body, and he is a solid technical striker. But his defense isn't the greatest, and he can leave himself open. Now, I don't think Chaos Williams has good defense. I don't even think Chaos Williams is that technical. But I do think Chaos Williams has a lot of speed on his punches, and he hits a lot harder than Bonfim. Now, Bonfim probably, like I said, path of least resistance. When you're on the outside, throwing the jab, feint the jab, throw the low kick. When Williams tries to push in, shoot, take him down, level change, and go work from the top. Look for your submissions. Bonfim, great jiu-jitsu, great submissions, very solid guillotine. I think Bonfim's best path to victory in this fight is to win this fight by submission. Use his grappling, take him down, control him, try to get him to get up to his base, get up to his hands and knees, and work his way up so that he can grab his neck and jump a guillotine. We will talk about a guillotine in a little bit, the later we get on this card. But I think that this fight is 100% winnable for Chaos Williams, and I'm honestly surprised at how many people are siding with Gabriel Bonfim. Not because I don't think he can win. You know, I think he can win. I think he is the better technical fighter. I think he's the crisper striker, but that doesn't really matter when you're fighting a guy like Chaos Williams because it only takes one shot. And I'm going to be honest, I think Williams finds that shot and comes through as an underdog against Gabriel Bonfim because I don't really see Bonfim submitting Williams. I don't see him controlling Williams on the ground for the entire fight. And I don't think he has the length and reach to fight on the outside like a Randy Brown and avoid getting clipped. And even Randy Brown got clipped at a point in that fight. I think Bonfim looks really good early. I think he uses his jab. I think he uses his 1-2. I think he uses his calf kicks. And I think he's beating up Williams. He's outpointing him. And I think they get into an exchange, and I think Williams clips him with that right hand and knocks him out. I do. I'm going to go second round knockout for Chaos Williams, plus 180. I think he's going to find himself in those exchanges with Bonfim. And I think Bonfim, at least Gabriel Bonfim, is the more technical and the sharper of the Bonfim brothers. And we're going to get to Ishmael in a little bit. But I think they're going to get into an exchange. And I think that right hand of Chaos Williams is going to find the chin, put down Bonfim, and knock him out. If he can find a shot on a guy like Miguel Baeza, now I think Bonfim has more upside and more potential than a Miguel Baeza, but I think in terms of the striking, in terms of the way that they strike, I think Bonfim and Baeza do have some similarities, and he found the shot there, and I think he finds the shot against Bonfim. I think Bonfim gets into an exchange, leaves himself open, that right hand cracks the chin, and he gets a KO. Give me Chaos Williams plus 180 via second round knockout over Gabriel Bonfim. I think he knocks him out. All right, up next, we've got a battle between Rafael Estevam, who comes in at minus 500, coming off of his UFC debut win over Charles Johnson via unanimous decision, taking on the plus 380 underdog in Jesus Aguilar. This is another tough one. I do not think Estevam should be minus 500, but I do think that he is the much better grappler. I think he's a much better wrestler. I think he has much better ability to get the takedowns. I think he just has to mind his P's and Q's with what type of takedowns he uses against Aguilar. The one thing Aguilar is going to be looking for is a big right hand and a guillotine. I guess that's two things, you know, I got to correct myself, but he's looking for a big right hand on the feet. If he lands on the chin of Estevam, I think he can knock him out, but he's looking for that guillotine. And when you're fighting another grappler, you know, in those exchanges, in those scrambles, you can leave your neck there to be caught. I would not be surprised if Estevam is winning this fight, outlanding him on the feet, getting takedowns, setting up submissions but not getting them, and then they get into an exchange. Estevam leaves his neck out there for too long when he's scrambling, and he gets choked out via guillotine. You know, if Aguilar wins, if it's a submission, 90% chance it's going to be a guillotine choke from Jesus Aguilar. And I think Aguilar has the better power on the feet, but I think Estevam is the more technical striker. He's going to be the better wrestler, and I think that's really what this comes down to is Aguilar has been submitted himself. He's been submitted, he's been put in bad positions, he's gotten out of submissions, but he always seems to put himself in those positions to get submitted. Estevam almost submitted Charles Johnson and then got dominated in that third round, didn't really have any cardio, got a takedown at the end, but he had clearly won the first two rounds. Heavy wrestling pressure, multiple takedowns, hip tosses and throws, and I think that's really what it comes down to is the different styles of takedowns that Estevam uses is going to be able to kind of nullify that guillotine choke of Jesus Aguilar. I think he's going to use those hip tosses. He's going to use backside trips. He's going to use, you know, inside reaps. He's not going to shoot traditional doubles, traditional single legs, because that's leaving your neck on a silver platter for a guy who has one of the nastiest guillotines in the UFC. Just ask Stuart Nickel. You know, shot a takedown, boom, got caught in a guillotine, and that was it. Not even shot a takedown. He lost a scramble. Aguilar shook him off of his back and then grabbed the front headlock and jumped the guillotine as Nickel stood up, and he got choked out. Not tapped out, choked unconscious. A very similar situation would be when Chris Duncan submitted Balaji Oki with that guillotine choke, and he went out. Kind of a similar situation there. I think that Estevam is going to be able to avoid this guillotine. I think on the feet, the power goes to Aguilar. the knockout ability and knockout upside probably goes to Aguilar as well. I do not think he should be plus 380. I would line this fight maybe minus 250, Rafael Estevam, plus 190, plus 200, Jesus Aguilar. I think the line is off. But I do think Estevam is going to out-wrestle and out-scramble and kind of out-position Aguilar. Probably get caught in some bad positions, but avoid the main, guillotine. And if he gets caught in the guillotine, he probably gets out of it. And I think he's going to submit him with a rear naked choke. So I'm going to go Rafael Estevam to win this fight via a second round rear naked choke submission. I think he wins one of those scrambles, winds up on the back of Aguilar. Aguilar defends for a little bit, but the longer the fight goes, he gives up his neck and gets choked out. So give me who I believe to be the more technical grappler and the better positional grappler in Rafael Estevam to submit a guy in Aguilar who's been submitted a few times before. Could easily get caught in that guillotine, but I don't think it happens. Give me Rafael Estevam, second round, rear naked choke submission. I think he finds the back and takes the neck home with him. All right, up next, you've got a battle in the strawweight division between Angela Overkill Hill taking on Ketlin Souza. Basically even money and a pick'em in this fight. Honestly, I've had a little bit of a hard time breaking down Angela Hill. I did pick her to get that submission over Luana Pinheiro. She got it. I played submission in round 3. She got it in round 2. But that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. Angela Hill, I'll just break this down. She's a 50-50 fighter. She looks very good in fights, but she fights really close with a lot of her oppositions, and she mainly loses split decisions. Got dominated pretty much by Tabitha Ricci, but I've picked her in fights that she could have won and she didn't, and I've picked against her in fights that she shouldn't have won and she should. Or she shouldn't have won and she did. Hill is a girl that's hard to read. Like I said, I picked against her with Denise Gomes. I thought the power, the brawling style was going to be too much. And Angela Hill pretty much dominated her, outclassed her, took her down, outstruck her on the feet. A lot of people are going to say, well, what's the difference between Denise Gomes and Ketlin Souza? Both these girls knocked out, dropped and then finished Yasmin Yaragwai. Both brutal finishes. Is it going to be a similar situation? It very well could be. Angela Hill, if she keeps it on the outside, if she pokes and prods, uses her jab, uses her 1-2, and sticks on the outside and skates around the octagon, uses those front kicks, uses that good Muay Thai, jab, right hand, left hook, right low kick, lead teep kick, and keeps her away, she could win this fight, and I think she can get takedowns, and she probably outpoints Ketlin Souza. But something about this girl, man, the way she landed that left hook on Denise Gomes and then jumped on the back, showing that she's a quick thinker. If she drops her, she doesn't have to KO her. She'll go for a sub. We've seen Angela Hill get dropped by Mackenzie Dern. Now, I feel like I used that same logic when she fought Denise Gomes. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm off on the timelines. But I figured, if Mackenzie Dern can drop her, why can't Denise Gomes? Denise Gomes didn't drop her. She got outclassed. It is what it is. I think in this fight, it's probably going to be close. It probably goes to a decision. I think this fight reeks of a split decision either way. It's either going to be Angela Hill getting a couple takedowns, but Ketlin Souza gets back up. She lands the more powerful shots, but the volume's going to be on the side of Angela Hill. Hill controlling the range, but Souza crashing the pocket a few times, landing some big hooks and some big overhands. But, I think Souza's going to have the more impactful strikes. I think Souza is going to have the more damaging shots. I think Souza could get some takedowns of her own. And I think this is going to be the performance I expected from a Denise Gomes, but didn't get. I'm going to go Ketlin Souza, 29-28 split decision. Whenever you're betting on or against Angela Hill, I'll give you one piece of advice. Don't do it. Stay away, baby. But if you have to play it, if you're a degenerate and you have to play something, fight ends by split decision. I think is probably the best way to go, because I think the fight is close. I think the volume, like I said, is on the side of the longer, rangier striker and the UFC veteran in Angela Hill, but I think the power, the bigger moments, and the bigger fight-impacting moments of the fight are going to be on the side of Ketlin Souza. So I'm going to take Ketlin Souza. Like I said, it's even money right now, but I think she's going to be able to do some damage. I think there is a possibility for a Souza submission, so do with that information what you will. I think it's possible she gets a sub. I was going to play Souza sub against Yaragwai. You don't have to believe me, but I saw the number and I was like, who's to say she can't win a scramble and get a sub? It happened. I didn't play it. Similar situation to the Bogdan Guskov fight against Billy Alicana. Everybody expecting the KO. I talked to my buddy who I did have on the podcast, but you guys never saw it, and said, bro, the submission is plus 1,500. Everybody and their mother's playing the KO. Might as well take the sub. Neither of us played it, and it happened. That's just the way it goes sometimes. But yeah, I'm going to go Ketlin Souza, 29-28 split decision. I think she has the bigger fight impacting moments. She does more damage, and she wins the fight on an aging Angela Hill. All right, up next, we've got a battle between Connor Matthews taking on the MMA Labs Jose Delgado. Now, I was big on Delgado on the Contender Series. I also picked Connor Matthews on the Contender Series. I picked Matthews by sub against Dennis Bazooka. It didn't go his way. He had the positions. He almost had the sub, but he didn't get it. In this fight, I think Connor Matthews is going to get brutally finished by Jose Delgado. Now, obviously, again, Contender Series. What do we know about the Contender Series? You can't trust these guys on the big stage. But I think it's different when you have two Contender Series guys and one who hasn't had a win inside the UFC yet in Connor Matthews. Matthews is a decent fighter. He throws solid volume. He has a decent amount of power, and Delgado does leave himself open to getting cracked. Delgado could get clipped on the way in and hurt. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it can't happen, because it can. Matthews has a lot of power. He's got some knockouts in his career, and he can land a big shot if Delgado comes in and disrespects his power. But I think Delgado, coming out of the MMA Lab, the one thing you know is that most of these guys are going to have a good game plan. They're going to fight the way that they should fight in order to win. And I think Delgado is the much more well-rounded fighter. I think he uses his range better. I think he's the more dangerous fighter in terms of being able to use submissions and also mixing up his strikes and being able to land that KO. He got that brutal knockout on the Contender Series against Ernie Juarez, I believe was his name. Landed a big knee on a level change, knocked him out, but he was piecing him up. He was landing good shots to the body. He was landing heavy body kicks, and he was kind of taking over the fight the longer that the fight went. I like something about this kid in Jose Delgado. I don't know what it is, but I like the way he mixes up his shots. I like the way he uses his range and his reach. And, you know, if Dennis Bazooka was piecing up Connor Matthews on the feet, I think Jose Delgado probably gets him out of there. And I think that's what we see here. If you look at my channel, if you go to my posts on the community tab, I usually pick one underdog of the week. Sometimes we do good. Lately, our track record has not been great. We had Jack Jenkins. That was a bad pick on my part, but he did drop him with a head kick. But either way, it was a bad pick. We've had some where it looked like a good pick. The fight just didn't go our way. And then, like I said, we've had some where we've just been completely off. But my pick for this week is Jose Delgado inside the distance. If I had to pick, I think it's a knockout, but I like that play. And although it's not an underdog, you do get like plus 100 odds on that, so it's technically underdog odds. If you want to be juicier, it's probably a KO. But I think Matthews, if he can clip Delgado coming in, like I said, I don't think Delgado has the best defense. He could probably drop him and do some work. I think he has the better jiu-jitsu. But I like Delgado's overall game. I like the way he uses his range. I like how dangerous this kid is. Head kicks, body kicks, knees, solid boxing combinations, uses his length and reach very good, uses his, good footwork coming out of the MMA Lab. Randy Steinke trained. I'm going Delgado by knockout. I think he finds the chin of Connor Matthews and puts him down in this fight. Could be a knee, could be a punch. I think there's multiple ways he could get this done. But I'm going to go Jose Delgado via a second round knockout over Connor Matthews. Like I said, there's always that danger factor because Matthews does have a lot of power and he does hit hard. If Delgado crashes the pocket, he could get KO'd. Kind of like an Elijah Smith and Vince Morales type of thing going on. But I like Delgado. I think he's cleaner. I think he's sharper. I think he's more well-rounded, and I think he mixes it up better. He's the better mixed martial artist, in my opinion, and I think he knocks out Connor Matthews. So give me Jose Delgado, second round knockout in this fight. Up next, we've got a battle in the middleweight division between the black belt hunter in Rodolfo Vieira taking on a standout wrestler and grappler in his own right in Andre Petroski. I'm going to be honest, man, this is a weird one. This is a weird fight. I think the better striker in this fight is Adolfo Vieira. And, you know, I don't think anybody's going to come in and say that Adolfo Vieira's striking is crazy good. But in this fight, he's a much better striker than Petroski. Petroski getting knocked out on that level change with a hip by Jacob Malhoun has pretty much entirely soured me on Petroski as a fighter. Now, I'm not the highest on Vieira as well. You know, I picked Armen Petrosian, and Adolfo took him down and strangled him. I don't think Adolfo has good striking, but I think it's levels above Petroski. I think Petroski has more power, but I think he just doesn't know how to strike. He doesn't have good combinations. He doesn't put combinations together. He's afraid to get hit, and he can't take a shot. Vieira's afraid to get hit as well, but I think he's gotten better. You know, I've seen him get into exchanges and get better, kind of get over that fear of getting tagged. And that's really what's pushing me towards the Vieira side. Now, do I think he should be almost a 3-1 favorite? No, I don't. But I do think that the wrestling probably is on the side of Petroski, but the jiu-jitsu is on the side of Vieira. I think the cardio pretty much evens itself out because I think both of these guys are kind of gas bags in the late second and third round, or the late second round into the third round. I think both of these guys get tired. But I do think that if in terms of growth as a fighter, I think the fighter who's grown more in their UFC career is Adolfo Vieira. I think Petroski's the better wrestler, but I don't necessarily think he's going to be able to out-wrestle Vieira and hold him down for 15 minutes. I don't really see that happening. I don't think he takes a Chris Curtis approach where he stops the takedowns of Vieira and pieces him up on the feet, because I don't think Petroski has the power or the technique to really do that against Vieira. Like I said, I think Vieira is the much more technical striker in this fight when I really look at it. I think Vieira wins. Like I said, I think the odds are off. I would make Vieira minus 190, Petroski plus 160. Like, honestly, if I'm looking at odds, that's what I go off of. But we're not looking at odds, right? We're breaking the fight down. And breakdown-wise, I think that both of these guys are unreliable. I think both of these guys are gas bags, but I think the fighter whose cardio has gotten better in their UFC careers, Adolfo Vieira. Petroski looked good against Dylan Budka, but couldn't finish Dylan Budka. We're going to talk about Dylan Budka in a minute. But I think Vieira is going to outstrike Petroski, and I think, you know, you're going to call me crazy, but I think he TKOs Andre Petroski. I think he's going to outstrike him, and I think he's going to put him down. I think Petroski is entirely afraid of getting hit. And I think Vieira used to be, but I think he's gotten better. I think he's gotten a little bit more confidence in his striking, and I think he's gotten better at survival, and I think he has a little bit better cardio. Like I said, cardio is pretty even, but I think he can push a little bit harder than Petroski in a 3-rounder. But I'm going to go with Adolfo Vieira via TKO. I think the KO on Vieira is like plus 700, something crazy. I think he gets it. I am just completely done with Andre Petroski. Now, yes, I did pick him against Dylan Budka, but that's just a different style of matchup. I think either guy can win, but I like Vieira, and I think I like him because I think he's a much better striker when people aren't really going to be, you know, expecting that. What do you usually get when two grapplers face off against each other? A mainly striking fight. And I think Vieira is the better striker, and I'm going to go with him. Give me Adolfo Vieira to defeat Andre Petroski via a 3rd round TKO in this fight. I don't think Petroski, number one, he doesn't like to get hit, even though most people don't like to get hit. But he can't really take a punch. And I'm not crapping on him. You know, I've picked him in so many fights, and he's soured on me a couple times. So I'm going to go with Vieira because I think he's the better striker in what's primarily probably going to be a striking match between two grapplers. So give me Adolfo Vieira, 3rd round TKO over Andre Petroski. All right, next fight up, we've got a battle between Ismael Bonfim, coming in as a minus 205 favorite, taking on the plus 170 Serra-Longo competitor in Nazim Sadykhov. I think this fight is good. I think this fight is a tough fight to call, but I also see a clear technical advantage on one side, and that's on the side of the underdog in Sadykhov. I think he's a much more technical fighter. I really do. People are going to come in, and I've heard them talking about how Ismael, his striking is so clean, it's technical, he's got a lot of power, puts combinations together well. Like, don't get me wrong, the guy can strike. He's not a bad striker. That knockout on Terrence McKinney was insane, you know, that flying knee. He landed big left and right hooks, but honestly, he's just a looping striker. Like, he has decent low kicks, and I think the low kicks against Sadykhov are going to be a decent weapon. You know, we saw Vyacheslav Borshchev land those low kicks. We saw Vyacheslav work the body very well. But a lot of people are going to compare the Vyacheslav Borshchev fight to this fight and say, well, look at what Borshchev's UFC career has been like, and look at, you know, he arguably beat Sadykhov if he didn't get that head kick and drop him in the second round and almost finish him, yada, yada, yada. Vyacheslav Borshchev is a much sharper striker than Ismail Bonfim could ever be, and I'm going to leave that at that. Bonfim has power. Bonfim has knockout potential. Gabriel Bonfim is more of a grappler. Ismail more of a striker. He looked good in his last fight, you know, kind of piecing up his opponent, staying on the outside, sticking and moving, and piecing up the last guy he fought, which is completely escaping me right now. Who was it? I literally just watched the fight the other day. Let me look this up because it's going to make me mad. Hold on. Ishmael. It was Vince from Hell Pichel. That's who it was. Ishmael versus Pichel. But Pichel, I think I played round 2, round 3 props on Pichel. I think I might have actually only played round 3 because I know that Ishmael's going to get tired. And he didn't really get tired against Pichel, so I looked wrong in that one. But I think Sadykhov is going to push a higher pace, and he's going to mix it up between the striking and the grappling much more than a Vince Pichel. And even in the Vince Pichel fight, even though it was a dominant win from Bonfim, I still don't think he looked that great. It was, again, big looping left and right hooks, big overhands, you know, huge uppercuts. And does he have power? Yes. Can he hurt Sadykhov? Yes, he can. People are going to say, oh, Evan Elder was piecing him up, winning the fight easily. That head kick cut Evan Elder, and that was it. Terrence McKinney took him down, took his back, almost choked him out. But then he got up. There's a difference, a big difference here. And it's that, yes, he had tough spots, but he came back from adversity and he found a way to win. Have you ever seen Bonfim come back from adversity, at least in his UFC career? The only real adversity we've seen from Ishmael was against Benoit Saint Denis. Now, I think Benoit Saint Denis is a very high-level fighter, but he wasn't able to come back. And the minute he got pushed back and beat up, that was it. Benoit Saint Denis crushed him. Now, Bonfim has also been submitted multiple times. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, all of his losses have come by submission. I think Sadykhov pushes a higher pace in the second and third round. I think he's going to be able to land crisper, cleaner boxing combinations off that shoulder roll, uppercut left hook, shoulder roll left hand, shoulder roll, uppercut hook, 1-1-2, slip, come back with the cross counter. I think Nazim Sadykhov will land his straighter punches, more technical punches, inside the looping punches of Bonfim, and I think he'll win grappling exchanges and end up in the top the longer that this fight goes. I think he's the much better fighter than people are giving him credit for. I understand why Bonfim is the favorite, but I don't think he should be a 2-1 favorite. I think both of the Bonfim brothers are kind of gas bags. Not gas bags, but I think they're unreliable, especially in terms of betting, just from what we've seen in their UFC career. I think Sadykhov's cleaner on the feet. I think he's got the cleaner, more technical striking. I think he lands the strikes in between the looping wide punches, the looping wide power punches of Bonfim. I think he's the better grappler. I think he wins grappling exchanges. I think he ends up in the top, and I think eventually he finds a submission, a rear naked choke, and submits Ismail Bonfim. Give me Nazim Sadykhov to defeat Ismail Bonfim via second round rear naked choke submission in this fight. I really like Sadykhov here. I think he's crisper. I think he's cleaner. I think he comes through adversity better. I think he can stay in the fight and push a pace. Even when he's getting tagged up, he still will come forward and try to land his own shots. Do I think he has unbelievable cardio? No, but I think he has better cardio than Bonfim. And I think the style of Nazim is the perfect style to beat a guy like Ismail. So give me Nazim Sadykhov, second round rear naked choke submission over Ismail Bonfim here. I like the underdog a lot. All right, up next, you got a battle between Edmund Shahbazyan taking on Dylan Budka. I think that this fight should be an Edmund smash. You know, Shahbazyan should come in here, outstrike Dylan Budka, and get an early knockout. You know, if we're writing this down, if we're expecting what's going to happen, quote-unquote, on paper, I think it would be a Shahbazyan KO in the first 2 rounds. We know that when we get to that midpoint of the second round, when we get to that third round, we know that the guy who's probably going to have the better cardio is Dylan Budka. Budka's not known as a striker, primarily known as a wrestler, heavy grappling pressure. But I don't think he's a terrible striker. He's clearly going to be outmatched on the feet. Excuse me. Against a guy like Shahbazyan. You know, I think that Shahbazyan's going to be in and out, moving around, using the jab, using the lead head kick. But you got to think, this isn't the Shahbazyan that knocked out Brad Tavares with that head kick and looked like he was going to be the next champ. This is a Shahbazyan who, yes, he's fought some very tough competition. Yes, he's lost to some of the best of the best. I mean, Gerald Mearshart, Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. He beat Dolce Lungiambula. You know, and he arguably almost beat Gerald Mearshart, but it was the GM3 special of, all right, now it's my turn, and then he submitted him. I think Shahbazyan has all the tools to piece up a guy like Budka, but I don't trust his cardio. I really don't. Realistically, I think if it gets past the midpoint of the second round, I think it's Budka's fight. He's plus 295, but I honestly think you just take Dylan Budka round 2, round 3, if you want to be on the side of the underdog. I just went back and rewatched his fight against Andre Petroski, who we just talked about, and his striking didn't look terrible. I mean, decent head kicks. He was throwing the rear cross to the lead head kick, and he throws a lot of power into his shots, but it wasn't bad. I expected it to be a lot worse watching the tape, and it really wasn't. I think this guy does know how to strike, but you don't want to be in a striking match against Shahbazyan because that's how you're going to get yourself knocked out, and that's how you're going to end up on Shahbazyan's highlight reel. So, is he going to be able to take him down? Yes, I think he can take down Shahbazyan. Is he going to be able to hold him down and do a lot of damage? I don't know. Like I said, he's going to have to get past that 7.5 minute mark in this fight, and if he does, I do think he has a chance to tire out Shahbazyan and probably finish him at the end of the second or into the third round. But primarily off of a pick, I'm going to take Shahbazyan. I think the striking is going to be too much. But I will tell you right now, I've already got a little shot on Dylan Budka round 2 and Dylan Budka round 3. I did place a little bet on those props. Very, very small. Like $5 each. I didn't do anything crazy. But I think that if it gets past that midpoint of the second, it could get a little hairy for old Shahbaz over here. But the pick's going to be Edmund Shahbazyan. I'm going to go Edmund Shahbazyan. Second round TKO. Early second round. I think he will clip Budka on the chin, drop him, and put him down. But like I said, I did take a shot on the round 2, round 3 props for Dylan Budka because we know that Shahbazyan looks really good early, and then he just falls off of a cliff. And I could easily see that happening here against a guy who has heavy wrestling and grappling and pretty decent power on the feet. So the pick is Shahbazyan second round KO. But in terms of a bet, like I said, I do have a shot on Budka late round, or Budka round 2 and round 3 props. All right, now we're at the co-main event of the evening between Kelvin Kattar taking on Youssef Zalal. This is a great fight in the featherweight division. A big step up for Zalal, but he's earned it. You know, after his first stint in the UFC didn't really go his way. He did lose to Ilia Topuria in Topuria's debut, but he took a round off of him. And in this second stint in the UFC, he's got all finishes. A rear naked choke against Jarno Aarons, a rear naked choke against Billy Quarantillo, and a knee to the face to an arm triangle against Jack Tank Shore. Now, I backed Zalal inside the distance against Quarantillo, and I backed Youssef Zalal by submission in round 2 and round 3 against Jack Shore. I like this guy. I think that he is a different beast at this point in his UFC career. And just based off of on paper, Kelvin Kattar should get pieced up in this fight. You know, just based off of the career trajectory, based off of how things have been going for both of these guys, Kattar should lose this fight. And I don't necessarily think it would be a finish because I think Kattar is very difficult to put away. But if it is a finish, I think it would be a sub from Youssef Zalal. We haven't seen Kattar get submitted since I think it was like 2008 or 2009. So he's been in the UFC. He hasn't been submitted. On the ground against Aljamain Sterling, he didn't get submitted either. And a lot of people are going to say, well, if Sterling wasn't able to submit him, how is Youssef Zalal going to be able to submit him? Realistically, I think I think Zalal is a little bit more well-rounded than a guy like Aljamain, and I don't think his grappling is as dominant and as strong as a Sterling, but I think he has more weapons and more dangers on the feet, which makes the grappling more dangerous, and he might be able to find the back of Kattar and lock him in a rear naked choke and get a submission. I would be surprised, but I could see it in the cards that Zalal pulls off another sub here. I think Kattar is by far the better boxer. I think the better MMA striker overall is Youssef Zalal. Zalal switches stances. He's able to dictate the range a lot better than most people. He's in and out, throwing a lot of low kicks, head kicks. We've seen him drop people with a spinning back kick to the head early in his UFC career. He can throw those wild, flashy techniques, but he's very hands low, in and out, jabbing, circling, a lot of lateral movement, jab, jab, right hand, jab, switch stance, knee up the middle, feint the kick, throw the knee up the middle on the level change, jab, uppercut, feint, cross, roll underneath. He's throwing a lot of really solid techniques, but they just look a little awkward. But he's got very good footwork and very good movement, and he's not going to sit there and stay on the center line. He's always going to be circling to that outside. He's always going to be moving and trying to catch you coming in with counters or just piece you up at distance. I think it's going to be very hard for Kattar to get inside, but I do think Kattar can do a lot of damage here. I do think Kelvin probably uses his jab very well. I think the jab of Kattar is going to be a big problem for Zalal, and I think you can make a comparison to the Kyler Phillips and Rob Font fight to the Kelvin Kattar and Youssef Zalal fight. Everybody and their mother was expecting Kyler Phillips to win. I believe he was a 5-1 or a 6-1 favorite, and Rob Font stuffed the takedowns, worked on the feet, and outboxed Kyler Phillips. Now, I think Youssef Zalal is a little bit better than Kyler Phillips in terms of actually executing his game plan and getting things off on the feet. But I could see a similar situation here. You know, you guys all say, like, Zalal doesn't get hit and Zalal's defense is very good. It is, but he hasn't fought a boxer at the level of a Kelvin Kattar. Now, what is the level of a Kelvin Kattar at this point in his career? I still think he can outbox Zalal on the feet. I think that he can use his jab, and I think that jab can dictate a lot of the pace in this fight. Using the jab, using the pull uppercut. Kelvin likes to jab, jab right hand, or jab right hand, pull back cross, jab measure, pull back cross, or pull back uppercut, cross, uppercut, hook. Kelvin's boxing is still extremely clean, and even if he's on a little bit of a downward spiral, I mean, he arguably won that fight against Josh Emmett. To this day, I still think he won that fight. He lost the fight to Arnold Allen. It looked like he was getting pieced up, but Zalal doesn't have the power. He just has a little bit more weapons. Like, I think those knees, knees to the body from Zalal and feint level change knees up the middle would probably be a good idea, but I don't really expect Kelvin to be shooting a lot of takedowns, so I think that knee up the middle is probably going to be nullified in terms of how the fight plays out in terms of the striking. I think we're going to see a lot of stance changes from Zalal. I think he will try to attack that body with big body kicks and, you know, jabbing low to the body. I think Kelvin's going to be looking for that uppercut, hook right hand. I think he's going to be jab 3-2, using the jab a lot, and I think the calf kicks of Zalal to the inside and the outside of the legs of Kelvin Kattar, kind of like a Hanato Moicano, is what Zalal's going to do on the outside. He's going to be skating around on the outside low kick, jab, jab, inside kick, jab, hook, inside kick, moving around, feint, inside kick. I think he's going to be attacking the legs because we know Kelvin is very heavy in his stance, being a boxer who sits down on his punches. But realistically, I think if we see the grappling of Youssef Zalal work, it's going to be a lot of positional control. I don't necessarily think he gets a submission here. I could see it. I know a lot of people are writing it off. I could see it, but I think Kelvin survives. I think we'll see Zalal get the back of Kattar at certain points. But I do think Kelvin will work his way back up. And honestly, man, I think this fight's going to be close. I think it's going to be a lot closer than people are expecting. I think this is a lot of, look at how good Zalal's looked in his career now, and look at the momentum of Kelvin Kattar at this point. I think this fight's going to be close. And I also, like I said, I think this has a little bit of a similarity to Rob Font and Kyler Phillips, where everybody was expecting Font to get demolished, and Font won that fight and looked very good in doing it, winning a unanimous decision. I think we could see Kattar outbox Zalal, make it harder for Zalal to take him down and land the better shots on the feet. I think Kelvin is the better boxer. Like I said, I think Zalal, better striker overall, mixing up his weapons. But I think Kattar is live in this fight. I think he's a live dog. I don't think a lot of people are expecting it, but I don't know which way I want to go. I've been very heavy on the Zalal side since he came back. I've always picked Calvin Kattar, and even when he's lost, I still pick him because, you know, he's one of my favorite fighters in this division. It's a very tough fight to pick. I do not think plus 350 is anywhere near correct on how the fight actually plays out. I think maybe minus 220 Zalal or minus 250 would be the highest I would put it. I think at plus 350, that's disrespectful. I don't care about recent performances in general. I mean, that was to the best of the best in the divisions, and I don't think Zalal would do very good against those guys. So I think it's a tough fight. I think that, well, we will see grappling control from Zalal. We will see Kattar use his jab. We will see him use the jab to the body and the jab up top to the head. I don't know who I want to pick here. This is tough, man. I'm having a hard time making a pick. I could see either guy winning based on the reasons I explained. Oof. I'm going to go Calvin Kattar by decision. I think he comes back here. He has a lot to prove in this spot. I know he said he feels like he doesn't, but I think we're going to see an improved Calvin Kattar, and I think he will outbox Youssef Zalal over 15 minutes. I think it's going to be a close fight. I definitely think Zalal has his ways to win. But I'm going to go Calvin Kattar by a split decision. 29-28 split decision for Calvin Kattar as the plus 350 underdog against Youssef Zalal. Like I said, I could see Zalal winning. This is not a fight I'm telling you, oh, go bet a lot on the underdog. Oh, go bet the favorite. I think if you want to take a stab on Zalal, it's probably Zalal by submission. I just think it's a possibility, even though Kelvin hasn't been submitted in a long time. But I'm going to say Kelvin wins a 15-minute decision and looks better in this performance than we have seen recently. So Calvin Kattar, 29-28 split decision as the big underdog. And now we are at the main event of the evening in the UFC's middleweight division. You have a battle between Jared, the Killer Gorilla Cannonier, taking on Gregory RoboCop Rodrigues. Rodrigues comes in minus 225. Jared Cannonier comes back plus 185 as the underdog. I honestly think this fight is going to be a car crash, and I think this fight finishes inside the distance. Inside the distance. I'll say it right now. I do believe that Cannonier is a technical striker. I do believe he is probably the sharper and cleaner striker than Gregory Rodrigues. But I also think momentum and things like that play a part in this fight. And I think that Cannonier is towards the tail end while Rodrigues is on the up and up. Now, I don't think Rodrigues has the skills to become a champion at 185. But I do think he has the skills to beat a guy like Jared Cannonier. I think Cannonier's footwork is better than Rodrigues. Rodrigues does get hit a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if Cannonier hit Rodrigues with a big check hook and knocked him out. I wouldn't be surprised if he hit him with a big uppercut and knocked him out. But I also wouldn't be surprised if Rodrigues kind of just pressured Cannonier, walked him down, put him on the back foot, and started landing his punches. Got some takedowns and to mix in there as well. Used some cage pushing to kind of wear out Cannonier. Knees to the thighs, knees to the body, elbows and uppercuts, dirty boxing inside the clinch, and just eventually broke down Jared Cannonier. You know, we saw him get knocked out by Nasruddin Imavov later in the fight. It looked like Cannonier was winning early. Then he got clipped with that overhand right over the jab and got knocked out. Standing TKO, but it is what it is. Look at what Imavov just did to Adesanya. That is something that we predicted. You know, Cannonier, at this point in his career, you know, he can look very good in certain fights. Like he looked good in the Marvin Vettori fight. But look at Marvin Vettori. He's not really the top of the division. He was at a certain point considered to be, but at this point, I wouldn't consider that a top-level win. I think Cannonier is, like I said, I think he's cleaner than Rodrigues, but I think Rodrigues is hungrier. And I think that's really what it comes down to, man. I think Rodrigues is hungry to get this main event win. I think Rodrigues is hungry to get into that top 10, top 5 of the middleweight division, and I think he's got a lot more hunger and a lot more motivation than a guy like Jared Cannonier at this point in his career. And I think Gregory Rodrigues, I think he can definitely just kind of back up Jared Cannonier and eventually put him away. I think Cannonier is live to knock out Rodrigues. We've seen Rodrigues get knocked out stiff on the regional scene. We saw him get knocked out stiff by Bruno Ferreira as Ferreira was a big underdog. I think Cannonier has the skills and the power to put down a guy like Rodrigues with those big hooks, the 1-2s down the middle, like I said, the uppercuts, and just circling and catching him as he tries to come in and crash the distance. I think it would be a counter knockout for Cannonier, but I also think, like I said, I like Rodrigues' forward pressure. I like the fact that when he smells blood, he will step on the gas and he will put that pressure on. Like, if Rodrigues hurts Cannonier, I have no doubt in my mind that he puts him away. And I think he can also use his wrestling. He's the way better grappler, way better jiu-jitsu artist in this fight. If the striking is kind of 50-50, he can change levels, get a takedown, and maybe we could see a ground and pound finish or potentially a submission finish from Gregory Rodrigues. I would not be surprised if RoboCop busted out the gi and the jiu-jitsu, or the gi and the black belt, and got the takedowns, got to the top position, looked to set up a submission. I don't think he submits Cannonier, but I do think Rodrigues will knock out Jared Cannonier in the main event of UFC Vegas 102. I think he's hungrier, like I said. I like the pressure. I like the forward pressure. I like the output. Like I said, I am worried that Cannonier can clip him and put him down. He's got a lot of power. He's a very clean and technical striker, and even at this point in his career, he's still very technical and very good at moving laterally, moving in and out, and landing good counters. I wouldn't be surprised if Rodrigues walked in there with his chin up in the air, got hit with a big shot, and got knocked out. But I am going to go with Rodrigues. I think it's RoboCop's time. I think he will put away Jared Cannonier, and I think he knocks him out pretty early. I'm going to go with a second-round knockout victory for Gregory RoboCop Rodrigues against Jared Cannonier. I think he hits him over the jab with that right hand, rocks him, and then just comes forward, right hook, left hook, big uppercuts, elbows over the top, and slumps Jared Cannonier and knocks him out in the second round. Give me Gregory RoboCop Rodrigues via second round knockout over Jared Cannonier in the UFC Vegas 102 main event. Alright, that's going to be it for my UFC Vegas 102 preview, predictions, and breakdown. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and smash the notification bell with a double downward elbow to catch all future uploads from the premier mixed martial arts and pro wrestling channel on YouTube. I'm your host, Double M, and I'm out. Have a good night, everybody, and let's make some money at UFC Vegas 102.